With the trade deadline looming for the Toronto Blue Jays, they have many big questions surrounding trading their stars Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bichette, and a brand new report has dropped revealing a major update regarding a contract extension for star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And what that update is might surprise some of you Jays fans and have you a little bit nervous. We're going to break down that exact report in this episode and discuss what its implications are not only for this trade deadline, not only for this season, but into the future, next season, and going forward for the Toronto Blue Jays as well. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we do, if you're a part of the percentage or unsubscribe to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to Peter and myself as we're on the road to 14,000 subscribers. Without further ado, let's just get right into it. And a report dropped from Mark Feinsand saying that Vladdy and the Blue Jays have discussed a contract extension but aren't close to agreeing on a deal. And obviously, this is a pretty big deal. This is the first time a major report has come out from anyone aside from Bob Nightingale regarding a contract extension for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Toronto Blue Jays. And basically, we all know that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. needs to extend with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's an unrestricted free agent after next season, so he still has one more year under his belt for the Toronto Blue Jays. But the problem is that his price is continuing to kind of go up now. Obviously, in 2021, we'll get into his stats later, but in 2021, he was an MVP candidate, would have won MVP if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani. And now, the past couple of years after that, he's been middling. He's been okay. And then this season, he's starting to really perform well. But the problem is, he's only under contract for one more year, and the Jays have yet to extend any of their core. They haven't extended Bichette. They haven't extended Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They haven't extended Danny Jansen. Three of the guys who are supposed to be pillars, especially Vladdy and Bo, on the team for years to come. You can basically go into the exact report here, and it says the Jays and also first baseman Vladdy have discussed the contract extension, but aren't close on agreeing with a deal with the trade deadline approaching. And like I said, he's under contract until the 2025 campaign, and said he wants to stay with the Jays even though they look like sellers. I would love to be in Toronto, he said. His family loves Toronto, his kids love Toronto, but at the end of the day, it's a business. We need to all understand that. So whatever happens, happens. But he would definitely like to stay there. And this is a rare time where the superstar is openly saying to the media and to everybody that he wants to stay a Toronto Blue Jay for life. He wants to stay there for years to come. But the Jays have yet to make a good enough offer to keep him on the team. And you can see here the report says that they've discussed a contract extension and that they've discussed a deal between the two sides to lock him up long term, but they've yet to agree on a number. And when you're thinking about numbers, we've seen lots of different players get inked to long term extensions. We saw Tatis get inked to a long term extension a while ago. Matt Olson obviously is on a pretty decent deal, but the problem with Vladdy is you can see his stats here. The only problem with him is that he's a first baseman primarily. He plays third a few times a year, but the value of a third baseman at $300 million to $400 million contract, which is what I assume Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is looking to get, it's pretty hard to justify, even though he has an OPS of 130 and OPS plus, sorry, of 130, and is really performing well this year. He's 30 points above league average, has an on-base percentage of 360, 14 home runs, 55 RBI. So he's really performing well this entire season. But again, when you're looking at paying players, specifically when the Jays are kind of headed towards a retool, though you can't really afford to lose a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because then you're really putting your rebuild a step back unless you get crazy prospects. But he's only 25 years old, and for a guy who's 25 years old, one of the best hitters in baseball this year, was one of the best, if not the best hitter in baseball back in 2021. Even though he is a first baseman, you might just have to suck it up and pay the man $300 million, however much it ends up being. I know Peter's on the side of don't sign a first baseman anything above like 250 to 300 million because the value you get's not going to be worth the production that you're getting back. But I think for the Jays at this point, they need to do something to lock up some sort of the core, because if they let Bichette walk for nothing and they let Vladdy walk for nothing, obviously that's the worst possible case scenario. And I don't think that happens. I think the worst case is they trade him at the deadline next year. I don't think either of these guys are going to be moved this year. I think Ross Atkins is still trying to kind of recoup this season to a degree and try to make the playoffs this year. They might sell. I think all signs are pointing to them selling. All signs are pointing to them selling their rentals, but not necessarily their long-term guys like Vladdy and Bo. But when it comes to Vladdy, they keep saying they're discussing contract extensions, and this has been in the talks now for 2 to 3 years that they've been discussing extending Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They have yet to do it, which is very concerning because obviously Vladdy has made it public that he wants to stay with the team. But the fact that Ross Atkins hasn't been able to get it done means either A, they're not confident in his ability to continue to hit and they're worried he's going to go back to his 2022 or 2023 self, or they just aren't comfortable giving a first baseman that much money on a team that has seen no success with this core under Bichette and Vladdy. And that's the only thing you can kind of give the front office not credit for, but it makes a little bit of sense in the sense of if they're trying to compete and they're saying, hey, this core of players, Bo and Vladdy, haven't given us a single playoff win since they came up, why would we extend them to long-term deals? It makes a little bit of sense, but at the same time, you cannot let Vladdy and Bo walk. And at this point, I feel more comfortable giving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a contract extension compared to Bo Bichette. And you can see here, Ross Atkins spoke out about the deal, or about a potential contract a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, whenever it was. It says Blue Jays general manager Ross Atkins responded to the rumors, this was a couple weeks ago, by saying, trading Guerrero or Bichette doesn't make sense for us. However, Guerrero added some fuel to the rumor mill fire when he appeared to rescind old claims that he would never play for the Yankees. Like I tell you, I'm a player, and if a team picks me up or if they do something, it's because they need it, obviously, and I'll be happy to help any team, he said. But right now, I'm just focused on helping my team try to get out of this bad streak. And obviously, this was Vladdy. So basically, Ross Atkins said it doesn't make sense for them to trade either of those guys specifically right now. And then Guerrero, when asked a couple weeks ago about joining the Yankees, because we know that a while ago he said to those kids that he would never play for the Yankees, it would never ever happen. But now he's basically saying, well, if I get traded there, of course I play for them. I'm a professional. And he was just selected to the 4th All-Star game. He went 0-2 in the All-Star game, but none of that really matters. He's having a very good year, and right now he's making about $20 million anyway before the raise. So if they give him a raise of $27 million a year, you could justify it for the Toronto Blue Jays. And from a business side of things, I mean, he sells tons of jerseys. He's still one of the most marketable players in the MLB. We've seen that in the All-Star game. Hazel May actually made a tweet saying that after the Jays, or after Sportsnet interviewed, or Hazel May interviewed Vladdy at the All-Star game, after Sportsnet did it, tons of other reporters came over, and he's still one of the most marketable players in the league. So it makes sense from a financial perspective to just lock him down, even if from a pure baseball perspective, I still think you have to. Now, unless it gets into the 350 to 400 million, I think at 300 million, you have to just bite the bullet and do it here. But I think Peter disagrees. So some people disagree. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section on that. And China Beatty dropped an article a couple days ago basically saying that uncertain days of looming change are ahead for the Jays once the All-Star break passes. One thing remains consistent. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. still says, I'd love to be in Toronto long term. So he wants to stay in Toronto. He wants to do everything he can to stay in Toronto. And now it's up to the front office, Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins, everybody to lock it down and hopefully get the player that is once touted the best prospect in baseball locked down long term, because he is only 25 years old. He still has lots of years under his belt, and hopefully he can tap into that power a little bit more and tune into it and get back to the player he was in 2021. But even if he doesn't, the way he's hitting this year and the way he hit 3 years out of his career, really 800 plus OPS, is good enough to justify the money. And with the Jays now, you look at their schedule as it comes up. They need to go on a bit of a win streak if they want to have any chance at the playoffs. They play the Tigers, who are fairly decent. They play the Rays, who are better than them. The Rangers, every team on this now, in theory, is better than them, given record-wise. But they need to make up some ground over the next 3 series before they head into the series against the Orioles if they want to have any chance to make a push for that 3rd wildcard spot. And the Tigers and the Rangers aren't having the best years, but neither are the Jays, so they need to go ahead and take care of business. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this, and we will see you soon.